Let me ask you something. Have you studied English for months, or even years, but when it's time to speak, your mind goes blank? You forget words, your sentences get stuck, and you feel frustrated. Sound familiar? Don't worry. This happens to almost everyone. You may wonder, I study hard, watch movies, follow my teacher. Why can't I speak fluently? The answer is simple. You are missing one crucial step that many learners overlook: reading. Yes, reading. It may seem boring or hard, but it's one of the most powerful ways to improve naturally. It helps you learn new words, understand grammar, and gain confidence without memorizing rules or doing endless drills. You just read, and your brain absorbs English like a child learning their first language. When you read, your brain notices patterns. Words repeat in context, sentences form naturally, and grammar becomes intuitive. Reading is not memorizing, it's learning effortlessly. Stories, comics, short books, or fairy tales are perfect. Fun reading keeps you motivated, helps you read more, and naturally improves your speaking. In this guide, we'll go step by step. Why reading works, how it affects your brain, what books to read, and how to make reading a habit. Even beginners can follow along. By the end, you'll see why reading is the secret to learning English, and why it can truly change your life. Chapter 1. Why reading is the key to English. Why should I read in English? My students often ask. I go to classes. I do grammar exercises. I watch English films. Isn't that enough? I always give the same answer. If you want to learn English really well, you must read. Reading isn't just helpful, it's the key to everything. When you read, your brain sees how English works. You encounter real sentences, real grammar, and words in context. That means you understand a word because of the surrounding words, not because you memorized it. Vocabulary lists are useful, but reading lets words repeat naturally until your brain remembers them. Reading also helps your grammar. You don't need to ask yourself, is this present simple or past simple? Your brain notices patterns. After seeing the same structures again and again, you begin to feel what is right. You understand grammar without rules or memorization. Spelling improves, too. When words appear repeatedly, you start to remember how they look. Hearing a word isn't enough. You need to see it in sentences. Reading trains your brain naturally. Many learners think speaking is the most important skill. I understand. It feels active and exciting. But before you speak fluently, your brain needs input. You must read and listen to English regularly. Think about a baby learning their first language. They listen for months before saying a single word. When you read, your brain is getting the same kind of input. You can go at your own pace. You can go back if something is unclear. The book doesn't judge or correct you. It just waits, letting your brain absorb English naturally. Reading also helps you think in English. Many learners translate everything in their heads from their native language. That slows you down and creates mistakes. Reading frequently trains your brain to feel English sentences. You start thinking in English without translating, and that changes everything. Let me give you an example. I once had a student, Sophia, from Spain. She could speak some English, but always hesitated, stopped mid-sentence, and struggled with grammar. I told her, Try reading." She was skeptical. "But I want to speak, not read," she said. Still, she followed my advice. Every night, she read one simple story before bed. 2 months later, her speech improved. She spoke faster. Her grammar became more natural, and she didn't even study rules. Reading gave her automatic language input, and her brain adapted. This isn't just one success story. It works for anyone who sticks with it. Reading helps your vocabulary, grammar, spelling, writing, and speaking. You don't need to read hours per day. Even 10 minutes a day makes a difference. Make it a habit. Reading isn't extra. It's the foundation of learning English. Now that you know why reading is the key, in the next chapter, we'll explore what happens inside your brain when you read, and why reading is so much more effective than exercises or memorization. Chapter 2. What happens in your brain when you read. So now you know why reading is important. But maybe you're asking, how does reading actually help me learn English? What happens inside my brain when I read? The answer is fascinating. When you read, your brain does many things at once. You look at words, think about their meaning, and even hear the sentences in your mind, even when you're reading silently. Slowly, your brain starts to understand English naturally. Think about grammar exercises. You try to remember rules. This is past tense. This is present perfect. I must put have before the verb. That's okay, but it's hard. You rely on short-term memory, which is weak. You forget quickly. But when you read a story, grammar appears again and again. You're not thinking about rules. You're enjoying the story. Yet your brain notices patterns automatically. This is called natural grammar learning. You don't study it. You feel it. Reading also helps you remember words, not just meanings, but spelling, pronunciation, and usage. A single appearance might not stick, but seeing a word in 10 different stories trains your long-term memory. That's how real learning happens. Some learners rely on flashcards. They can help, but they aren't the most effective. Flashcards show one word at a time, often without context or emotion. Reading stories teaches words in sentences, in situations, with feeling. That's why your brain remembers them better. Your brain loves patterns. Grammar and words repeat in stories. Sentences are similar, but not identical. Slowly, without conscious effort, your brain learns the structure. For example, she didn't go to the party. He didn't eat his lunch. They didn't finish the homework. Your brain starts to understand, didn't verb something didn't happen, without memorizing a rule. This is called comprehensible input, reading material that's easy enough to understand, but still introduces new words. You may not know every word, but you understand the story. You feel relaxed, not stressed, and that makes learning fast and natural. Enjoyable reading helps your brain absorb language faster. It's better than tests, exercises, or memorizing. Every story gives thousands of examples of real English, grammar, vocabulary, spelling, without forcing your brain. You learn slowly but deeply. Think about how children learn. They hear words repeatedly. They don't study grammar books or take tests. They just listen and speak. Reading does the same for you. That's why it's so effective. Now you know what reading does in your brain. In the next chapter, we'll compare reading with traditional learning, grammar lessons, vocabulary lists, and speaking drills, and show why reading is far more powerful. Chapter 3. Reading versus traditional learning. Many students spend years learning English. They attend grammar classes, memorize vocabulary lists, and do speaking drills. Yet they still struggle to speak fluently. They make simple mistakes, feel nervous, and hesitate to talk. Why? Because they are learning English the traditional way, and that way is not enough. Let me tell you about my student Omar from Morocco. He studied English for 6 years in school. He knew grammar rules and could pass tests easily. But when he tried to speak, he said things like, "I go yesterday market." He knew it was wrong, but didn't know why. He felt frustrated and asked me, "Why can't I speak? I know the grammar." I gave him one simple advice: start reading. At first, he didn't believe me. "I want to speak, not read," he said, but I told him, "Just try. Read 15 minutes a day. Pick something easy. Don't use a dictionary. Enjoy the story." After a month, Omar's speaking improved. His grammar got better. His vocabulary expanded. He didn't study any rules. He just read. Why did this happen? Because reading gives you something traditional learning cannot: a feeling for the language. When you read, you see sentences repeatedly. You start to feel what's correct. You learn what sounds natural. Here's an example from research. In Fiji, a study tested 3 ways of learning English. One group studied grammar traditionally. Another read silently in class. The third listened while the teacher read aloud. The reading groups performed much better than the grammar-only group on reading and grammar tests. The same experiment in Singapore confirmed it. The silent reading group scored highest in grammar, even outperforming the group with daily grammar lessons. This is not theory, it's science. Reading works. Why? Because grammar rules are just descriptions of patterns. Exercises show 1 or 2 examples. Stories show the same pattern 20 or 30 times in different ways. Your brain starts to understand without conscious effort. Vocabulary lists alone are not enough. You might learn a word, but you forget it quickly. Your brain remembers words in context, in sentences, stories, and situations. That's why stories are so effective. They link words to emotion and meaning. Speaking drills help, but if you don't have words stored in your brain, you can't use them. Reading fills your mental vocabulary. Then, when you speak, the words are ready. Another example is Lena from Egypt. She studied 20 new words daily, but rarely used them when speaking. I asked, "Do you read?" She said, "No time, too slow." We set a plan: 10 minutes a day, 1 short story, no dictionary, no stress. 3 weeks later, Lena used 3 new words in conversation without trying. She was amazed. I wasn't. That's the power of reading. Grammar rules, vocabulary lists, and drills are useful. But if you want natural fluency, reading is key. In the next chapter, we'll discuss what kinds of books you should read, because the right books matter as much as reading itself. Chapter 4. Choosing the right books. Now that you understand why reading is powerful, you may be asking, what should I read? That's an important question. Choosing the wrong book can be boring, or even make you give up. The first rule is, Don't read like you are in school. You are not reading to pass a test or write a report. You are reading to enjoy English, to feel it in your brain. This is called reading for pleasure. Reading for pleasure means picking books that make you happy, stories that make you laugh, smile, or even cry. Books that are fun and interesting for you, not for a teacher or test. Many students think fairy tales are for kids. I understand. You might want real English, business or academic English. But here's a secret. Fairy tales, comics, and simple stories contain real English. They use common words and important grammar. Most importantly, they are fun. Enjoying story means reading more, and reading more means learning more. So, what books are best for beginners? Graded readers. These are books written for English learners. They come in levels like A1, A2, B1, etc. They use simple words, short sentences, and easy grammar. Many are famous stories rewritten for learners. They are a perfect starting point. Fairy tales. You probably know the story in your language. This makes it easier to follow in English. You'll learn daily use English naturally. Comics. Short, colorful, and full of pictures. Comics show spoken English, jokes, slang, and common phrases. They are fun and easy to understand. Short stories. Perfect because they are not long. You can finish one in a day or two. Completing a story gives you a sense of achievement, motivating you to read more. Here's a key rule. The 98% rule. You should understand about 98% of the words on a page. That's almost every word. Maybe 1 or 2 new words per page. If too many words are new, your brain gets tired, and you stop enjoying the story. Example of too hard. 90% understanding. Sarah fled the basil and went to the bluff. It was a very storm day. Confusing. Example of just right. 98% understanding. Sarah opened the window and went to the park. It was a very warm day. Clear and enjoyable. If a book feels too hard, stop and find something easier. Easy books are not a waste of time. They are the best learning. When your brain relaxes, it learns faster. In the next chapter, we'll talk about how to start reading when it feels hard. I'll show you strategies to make reading easy and enjoyable from day 1. Chapter 5. How to start when reading feels hard. Many students tell me, reading is hard, or I don't understand anything. I completely understand. You open a book, see too many new words, feel slow and tired, and think, this is not for me. You close the book and give up. But here's the truth. Reading feels hard at first for everyone. Even native speakers struggled when they were children. Every English learner experiences this. The good news is, it gets easier quickly if you keep going and don't give up. The first step is to start small. You don't need to read a long novel right away. Don't try Shakespeare or newspapers. They are too difficult. Instead, pick something short and simple. 1 page, or even 1 paragraph, is enough to begin. You don't need to be perfect. You just need to start. Children's books are a fantastic starting point. Some students say, but those are for kids. Yes, they are, but they are perfect for beginners. Children's books use short sentences, simple grammar, and easy words. Many include pictures to help your brain understand the story without translating every word. And the best part? Many children's books are truly fun to read. Graded readers are another excellent option. These books are written for learners like you. They match your level, so you don't have to guess too much. Start with your level, A1, A2, B1, and so on. These books create a feeling of success, and success makes you want to keep going. Here's an important principle. You don't need to understand every word. Many learners make the mistake of stopping every 2 sentences to look up every unknown word. After a few minutes, they feel tired and quit. Reading slows down, and it feels like hard work. But reading is not about knowing every word. It's about understanding the story. Your brain is smart. It can guess the meaning from context. For example, Maria put butter on her toast and drank a cup of bloop. You've never seen the word bloop, but you can guess it's a drink, maybe tea or coffee. This is the power of context. Guessing helps you learn naturally. Your brain remembers better when you see the word again in another story. Another strategy is to skip unknown words if you still understand the sentence. Don't stop. Don't lose the story. Most of the time, the word isn't important. Some students ask, should I write new words in a notebook? You can, but it's often better to read more. You'll meet the word again naturally, just like children do. Reading doesn't need to take hours. 10 minutes a day is enough. Start small, and gradually, reading becomes easier. Slowly, you'll read faster, understand more, and most importantly, enjoy it. When you enjoy reading, it becomes a habit. Take the example of my student Rosa. She began by reading just 1 paragraph a day. At first she said, "I feel slow. I don't understand." She didn't stop. After 2 weeks, she could read 1 full page. After 1 month, she read for 15 minutes and actually enjoyed it. Now, Rosa reads every evening, and her English has improved more in 3 months than in the previous 2 years. Reading is like exercising your brain. The first days are hard, but if you keep going, it becomes fun, and your brain grows stronger. Start with easy books. Don't rely on a dictionary for every word. Guess meanings from context, skip unimportant words, and read a little every day. Don't give up. Soon, reading will feel natural, English will feel easier, and you will feel proud. In the next chapter, we'll talk about the power of stories, how reading stories can teach grammar, vocabulary, and sentence patterns faster than any textbook ever could. Chapter 6. The Power of Stories. Let me ask you something. Do you remember the grammar rules you studied in school? Probably not. But do you remember a story your grandmother told you when you were a child? Most likely, yes. That's because stories are powerful. In this chapter, I want to show you why reading stories is more effective than reading grammar books. Stories help your brain remember language faster and for longer because they connect words with emotions, actions, and meaning. Grammar books give rules. Word lists give vocabulary. But stories give language in action. When you read a story, you don't just see words, you feel them. You see how people use them. You understand when and why certain words are used. Your brain connects the words to images, feelings, and ideas, which helps you remember them naturally. For example, consider the word whisper. You can memorize the meaning as speak very quietly, but now imagine a story. The little girl tiptoes into the dark room. She goes close to her brother and says, "Don't wake up, Mom," she whispers. Suddenly, you see the word in action. You feel it. You know what it means without translating it. That's the magic of stories. Stories also teach grammar naturally. In school, you learn sentences like, "She has gone to the store," as a rule. But when you read stories, you see that same structure repeated. She has gone to the store. He has just finished dinner. They have already left. Your brain notices the pattern, has past participle, without memorizing a rule. This is called language input, and stories provide more input than any grammar book ever could. Vocabulary grows the same way. Many learners ask, "How can I remember more words?" The answer: read stories. Words appear repeatedly in different contexts. A word list shows a word once. A story shows it 5 or 10 times in various situations. For example, the word angry may appear as, "He looked at her." Angry. She shouted with an angry voice. The angry dog barked all night. His face turned red. He was very angry. "Why did you do that?" he asked angrily. You learn not just the meaning, but how to use it naturally. Even fairy tales and comics teach real English. One study found that reading science fiction stories exposes learners to academic and professional vocabulary. Words like environment, system, process, and analysis. Another study showed that ordinary novels contained 85% words from academic word lists. So even fun stories are building serious English in your brain. Stories also help you think in English. They make you imagine what happens next, follow the characters, and predict endings. You don't just learn words, you live English. Grammar, vocabulary, and sentence structure are absorbed naturally. You feel the rhythm of the language, and this is the ultimate goal. We don't want to study English like math. We want to live it, feel it, and understand it deeply. Stories make learning enjoyable, natural, and long-lasting. Even one story a week can change how you feel about English. It's no longer boring. It's exciting. You want to read more, and when you read more, you learn faster. So go ahead. Pick a story, a fairy tale, a comic, or a short novel. If it's fun and easy, it's perfect. In the next chapter, we'll talk about what happens after you've read 100,000 words, how your brain changes, and how fluency begins. Chapter 7. What happens after 100,000 words? Let me tell you something exciting. The first 100,000 words you read in English will feel challenging. You'll see words you don't know. You might feel slow, and you may wonder, is this really helping me? But something amazing happens after this point. Your brain begins to change. It feels like magic, but it's not. It's just how learning works. This chapter is about what happens when you keep going, reading more and more. 100,000 words, 300,000 words, even 1,000,000 words. I'll explain what to expect and share a personal story about how I learned Spanish just by reading, which shows exactly how reading can transform your English. First, let's understand what 100,000 words means. It sounds huge, but it's manageable. A short novel is about 30,000, 40,000 words. So reading just 3 short novels already brings you close. If you read 10 minutes a day, That's roughly 2,000 words per day for an easy book. In 50 days, you've reached 100,000 words, less than 2 months. At first, your understanding may rely heavily on guessing. You might not know all grammar rules, but your brain starts noticing patterns. You recognize phrases, stop translating in your head, and read naturally. The first 50,000 words feel slow, but the next 50,000 feel faster. You stop constantly looking up words, enjoy the stories more, and begin to believe, I can do this. Let me share my experience. In 2017, I wanted to learn Spanish. Classes hadn't worked for me. Memorizing grammar and flashcards was tedious. I made a promise. I would read 1 million words in Spanish, about 20 full-length novels. I started small with children's stories, easy blogs, and podcasts with transcripts. Then I read familiar books like Harry Potter, but in Spanish. Slowly, I advanced to new, slightly harder material. After 100,000 words, I felt a noticeable change. After 300,000, I understood most things. After 500,000, I read without a dictionary. After 1 million words, I could speak, write, and even think in Spanish. I didn't memorize grammar rules. I just read, and it worked. This is why I tell my students, reading is slow at first, but once it works better than anything else. So, what can you expect? At 100,000 words, confidence grows. At 300,000, your vocabulary doubles. At 500,000, you begin thinking in English. At 1 million words, English feels natural. Not perfect, but easy. Grammar becomes intuitive. You use past tense, present perfect, and conditionals, not because you memorized rules, but because your brain has seen the patterns repeatedly in stories. Reading also reduces fear. Many learners feel shy, unprepared, or insecure about their English. But when you've read a lot, your brain is full of words and sentences. You feel ready. And when you feel ready, you feel brave. This is why reading builds speaking indirectly, but powerfully. You don't have to construct sentences. Your brain already knows them. Here's the final takeaway. Reading may feel slow at first, but your brain is absorbing language deeply. Every story gives you words, phrases, feelings, rhythms, and patterns. If you read consistently, it all adds up. Start today. Pick something fun and easy. Don't stress about grammar or perfection. Read 100,000 words, then keep going. After 1 million words, you won't just learn English. You'll live it. Chapter 8. Don't just read. Read the right way. Now that you understand how powerful reading is, it's important to know that how you read matters. Reading the wrong way can feel like hard work, but reading the right way can be fun and help you learn faster. Many students think reading means opening a book, translating every word, stopping constantly, getting tired, and giving up. That's school reading. It's not real language learning. Language learning reading is different. Here's the secret. The best way to read is to read for fun. Read silently, without a dictionary, and without stopping. You don't need to understand every single word. If you understand around 95% of the story, that's enough. Your brain will naturally fill in the rest. Words you see repeatedly, will eventually become clear without stress. This method is called comprehensible input, and it's the most powerful tool for language learners. Every page gives your brain English in context, and that's far more effective than memorizing lists or rules. So how should you read? First, read silently. It's faster and more natural. Your brain can process more at once. Second, don't stop for every new word. Guess its meaning from context. Only check a word if it is repeated often or very important. Third, choose easy books. Easy is good. If you understand about 98% of the words, you're doing it right. If it's too hard, find something easier. That's not failure. It's smart learning. Fourth, reread books. Reading a story a second or third time is powerful. You notice things you missed before, remember words and grammar better, and build confidence. Fifth, track your progress. Keep a notebook of books you finish, note interesting points, and see how far you've come. It's motivating and shows your growth. Sixth, build a habit. Even 5 or 10 minutes a day adds up. Set a routine, morning coffee, lunch break, or before bed. Daily habits are the key to mastery. Finally, combine reading with listening. Listen to audiobooks or podcasts while reading the transcript. This strengthens your connection between written and spoken English, improves pronunciation, and enhances comprehension. You see words, hear the sounds, and your brain processes language faster. Let's summarize. Read silently. Don't translate everything. Pick easy and fun books. Reread your favorites. Track progress. Make reading a daily habit. And combine reading with listening. These steps are simple, but incredibly effective. Reading is not just about understanding words. It's about building your life in English, one page at a time. And don't worry about perfection. You just need to keep going. In the next and final chapter, we'll see how reading leads to writing. You'll discover how stories improve your writing skills naturally, even if you never take a writing class. You'll be amazed at how reading can transform every part of your English. Chapter 9. Your English Reading Journey. Start today. This is the final step, the moment to put everything into action. You now know why reading is powerful, how it works in your brain, and why it's better than traditional grammar classes or vocabulary lists. The key to improving your English is simple. Start reading today. No excuses, no delays. The sooner you start, the sooner you'll see progress. Step 1. Choose your first book. But not just any book. The right book. The right book is fun, interesting, and easy enough for you to enjoy without stress. Don't pick something too hard that makes you look up every word. Start with a short story, a comic book, a graded reader, or a story you already know from a movie or show. Fairy tales are excellent too. If you're unsure where to start, pick books designed for English learners. The goal is pleasure, not perfection. Step 2. Set a daily reading goal. Even 5 minutes a day is enough. Start small if you're a beginner. 10 or 15 minutes is great if you have more time. What matters most is consistency. Daily reading builds momentum, and momentum leads to progress. Step 3. Create a routine. Choose a time and place to read every day. Morning coffee, a lunch break, or bedtime are great options. Make reading part of your life. Habits are the foundation of any skill, including English. Step 4. track your progress. Keep a notebook or use an app to record the books you finish. Write short notes like, "I loved this story," or "This chapter was tricky but fun." Seeing how far you've come is motivating and shows your growth. Step 5. Push through the slow days. There will be days when reading feels slow or difficult. Don't worry about understanding every word. Guess from context, skip words you don't need, and keep going. Even on hard days, your brain is absorbing English. Step 6. Enjoy the process. Reading should feel like fun, not work. If the book excites you, you'll want to read more. This is how English stops being a subject and becomes a living part of your daily life. Step 7. Keep going. Progress may be slow at first, but it will accelerate. You'll understand more, feel more confident, and start thinking in English naturally. That's the magic of reading. The most successful English learners have one thing in common: they read. Now you do too, so start today. Pick a book. Find a quiet moment. Read for even 5 minutes. Each page you read is a step toward fluency. Over time, these steps add up. Your vocabulary, grammar, writing, speaking, and confidence will all grow. Reading is not just a skill. It's a journey that transforms your English and your life. If you found this guide helpful, subscribe to the channel Narratizi English. Hit the like button and share your first book in the comments. I read every comment and love helping learners on their journey. Happy reading, happy learning, and welcome to a new world of English.